USC hires its defensive coordinator, DeAnton Lynn, poached from UCLA to run the USC defense.
Hey, we are waiting for LBC, who's having some internet issues. And he is back with us.
We've had some tech issues this morning, but thanks for joining in. We want to talk about
so the people know. We'll give you full disclosure. LBC's internet is down right now, so he's making do. So we're cutting him some slack. Give him some slack in the comments, folks.
But what a day! What a day yesterday, Tony. Thanks a lot for joining me. As some of you may know, Tony Altimore is the host on the Voice of College Football, the USC postgame live show, and he's also the host Wednesday nights on the Pac-12 Chat Show live show, which I think maybe there's one more episode as we get into the bowl season.
Maybe two. But we need to have a bowl preview and maybe like a wrap up of the conference that said its final farewell last night.
So kind of like the conference, a little sketchy this morning. Appreciate you for joining. Exciting news, Tony. I got your text last night. I was just sitting down having a beer at the local pizza place. Who is the USC guy, and I see your text. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? The kickoff is just happening for the Pac-12 championship between Oregon and Washington, and you broke the news to me that Pete Thamel was reporting that DeAnton Lynn was hired as USC's new defensive coordinator. Now that you've had roughly 15, 16 hours to digest it, what are your thoughts, Tony?
I'm not sure. I have infinite faith in Jen Cohen to make a great choice. And he seems like a great coach. He's had a lot of success. He's had a lot of success in quick turnarounds, which I really like. Lord knows we need that. I will be honest, I had expected a splashier hire. And so it was a little surprising to me that we take UCLA's defensive coordinator, who is, young, up and coming, seems like a great coach. But, we were thinking we were going to have Jim Leonard, Tony White, Manny Diaz. We know that some of them turned us down. I'll tell you, Rick, what this reminds me of a little bit I hope, we always say this when this happens, but I hope what this reminds me of a little bit is when we hired Pete Carroll. And everyone was like, oh, that guy. Because they wanted Mike Bellotti, they wanted Mike Riley, they wanted Jack Del Rio, they wanted Lou Holtz.
Yeah,
a number of them turned us down publicly. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's an excellent point that you bring up, is that nobody really knew about Pete Carroll. We were turned down. And from what we know of this hire, most likely there was an impasse between Jim Leonard and USC. We don't know what the reasoning was. Maybe Leonard didn't want to come out here after all because of the West Coast. Maybe he preferred to wait for this NFL cycle. Who knows? We don't know, but the parties moved on. Morgan Scalley turned us down. But the phone calls were made, and we don't know about Manny Diaz. We'll find out in the next few weeks where some of these people end up. Manny Diaz might be a candidate for the Duke head coaching position. Who knows? But he had head coaching aspirations as he was the former head coach at Miami. But I was very surprised that USC went after DeAnton Lynn because of that relationship between SC and UCLA. But I think maybe things changed after that game of the Coliseum where they held us to 3 rushing yards. I think maybe
let's just be clear. We had fewer rushing yards than the Victory Bell has tires. Okay.
So that Yeah,
He
that could have
held
been
us to
conversation.
fewer rushing. He held tailback you to fewer rushing yards than the trophy has tires. He's a good
Yeah,
coach.
that was that was sad. That was totally sad. But DeAnton Lynn, you have to credit him. And during this coaching search, it's kind of been a frantic 2 weeks because of the lengthy negotiations with Leonard, or discussions. Then on Wednesday,
Supposedly.
it was rumored that, what's that?
I said supposedly. One of the things that
Yeah,
I think one of the things that I learned in this is not to listen to what all these insiders tell us, because they were all wrong. So, I'll tell you now, Rick, you have been saying DeAnton Lynn should be a key candidate for weeks. So kudos to LBC for making that call weeks ago that DeAnton Lynn was a great candidate, and look who we've got.
Yeah, I didn't really say that publicly, but we've had those discussions, and
For
I
weeks.
recorded. Yeah, I didn't have him in my top 5, but I thought he would
I
be a
am
candidate for
vouching
what
that
he did.
this guy, pointing the wrong way because the camera's reversed, this guy knows exactly what he's talking about.
And the reasons why is because of the quick turnaround that he made. I don't know if a lot of Trojans out there know, but there's a lot of panic the last couple of weeks because, hey, we need to hire a DC. The transfer portal is opening up, recruiting, National Signing Day. Hey, I get it. But this guy, DeAnton Lynn, was hired at UCLA February 23rd last year. Okay, that was after the that was after early signing day, National Signing Day in February, after the transfer portal. He didn't even get to pick his own coaches. The coaching staff was already there
They
in
were already there.
place. So if you remember, rest in peace, Bill McGovern. Bill McGovern had some serious health issues and stepped down at the end of last year, um, and went into more of a football operations position. But he passed away in May of 2023. Rest his soul. And DeAnton Lynn, you know, basically worked with these coaches that he didn't hire, didn't know, and work with the players. Now there was the spring transfer portal where UCLA picked up a couple players, but he was able to turn around that defense from basically number, I think, 89 in the country to number 11. They had the number 1 rush defense in the country, and number 2 rush defense on yards per attempt. So that was phenomenal. And as you pointed out, Tony, and all Trojans know, we were held to 3 yards rushing. So in terms of the hire, yeah, it wasn't a sexy splash hire, but I think the potential is there. Wherever he's been, he's had success. Most notably, he was with the Baltimore Ravens for 2 years prior to coming to UCLA for the 1 year. What are your thoughts on the upside potential of DeAnton Lynn with this USC defense?
I mean, we think there's a lot of talent there. We could be wrong, but you and I have talked about this. We've talked about this on other shows and other channels. We think there's a lot of talent in the defense that is not performing. Now, is that scheme? Is that performance? Is that philosophy? I don't know what it is, but we think there's a lot of talent there that's underperforming. So if he can go and take that talent and get that talent to perform, that's what we need. I mean, Lincoln Riley, now we have another hole on the offensive line that I think is being dealt with. Our offensive line was atrocious, but if he can take that defense and make it decent, they don't have to be world beaters, but make it decent for the Big Ten. I think Lincoln Riley's offense is going to tear up the Big Ten, and it's going to be pretty darn cool. But
yeah, it's going to be amazing.
But we need a decent they don't have to be the greatest defense in the world, but we need a decent defense. And again, he's had success everywhere he's gone. Jen Cohen liked him. Lincoln Riley was good with him. So, I look at it and say, let's do it. Hopefully he'll be right for that. And it may also be a case of he might, as far he doesn't have to move. So,
nope.
that might have been an attractive thing in a defense coordinator. We might have had folks who said, quite honestly, and I don't know. I'm literally just, this is just I'm just guessing here, but like the house that you can get on $1 million pay in Lincoln, Nebraska, for your family and everything else is not like the house you can get for $1 million pay in LA.
Right.
So, they may have been like, okay, now it's a little different when you're Lincoln Riley and it's 10 million, right? Like it's just a different little world there. So, it may have been a situation where they said, okay, let's, we need to find somebody who will take this job and who will be in LA, who's the best person we can find that can turn us around quickly, that has a ski. I mean, the other thing too, that we don't always think about that they're thinking about, Jen Cohen as analytics people, I hope, I'm sure she does, thinking about this is, who has a scheme that works with our talent? I would imagine that is a key thing that they've been thinking of. Who has something that can work with what we have here to make it successful? And they've picked Coach Lynn, and I'm hoping it works. I will tell you, UCLA fans are down hard right now. This was the only thing they liked about their team.
Yeah, the hits keep coming for UCLA, and they've got serious concerns over there right now, I think, from a leadership standpoint. And you can see how much more efficient and focused USC is because of the integration, the full integration with leadership, board of trustees, the football department, the athletic department of where USC is. And hey, a decision was made, and USC now has DeAnton Lynn as its new defensive coordinator. I want to thank Blackie Chan for joining us. I had a chance to go on their show. Great show.
Right on, Blackie.
Light the Torch podcast. I was able to chime in for a few minutes last night to give some initial reaction. Thanks a lot for joining us, Blackie Chan. And for all of you that are joining us here on the LBC Trojan channel to discuss DeAnton Lynn getting hired as the new coach, the new defensive coach. Share us with your thoughts out there in the chat of how you would grade this hire. It wasn't a sexy hire, but I think it has the upside, the potential to be a very good hire. I'd give the hire a B. If you had to give it an A through an F grade, I'd give it a B. It's a solid hire with a lot of upside. And the thing that I like is one of the guys that DeAnton Lynn worked with at the Baltimore Ravens was former safety from Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton. That guy's an athletic freak. And in the first year that he was there, Kyle Hamilton, DeAnton Lynn was credited for working with him. Kyle Hamilton, as a rookie, had 64 tackles, and look at the season he's having now. So the great thing about DeAnton Lynn is he's been in organizations that are key in defense. Baltimore Ravens were third in the NFL in points allowed while DeAnton Lynn was there. He was there, I believe, for 2 years. So he understands defense not only on an NFL level, but in a college level as well. Working with UCLA, and we see what he's done. And speaking of defenses, here is some numbers real quick. If you look at, these are total defense. And if you look at the top 15, the top 15 defenses, UCLA's number 11. You kind of can't see it right there, but 5 of the top 15 defenses are in the Big Ten. Penn State 1, Michigan 2, Ohio State 3, Iowa 7, and Nebraska is number 15. So defense is key in the Big Ten. We're going to be able to have a coach here that understands it. DeAnton Lynn played his collegiate ball at Penn State. He's a linebacker, so he's played in the Big Ten. He understands how to play defense in the Big Ten and then how to play defense in the NFL. So I think it's got the foundation, the framework, his coaching style to work well. It's what's missing at USC. As we know, if you're going to win championships at USC, you have to have a very solid defense. Tony, your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree with you. We need to have a good defense. We need to have a good defense, period. We sort of, I think we've seen that this not having a good defense doesn't work. It doesn't work for winning, but it also doesn't work for the program. It's, I know this sounds silly to say, but like this program expects a decent defense. This program does not want to win a game 49-50 or whatever that was at Cal because a 2-point conversion got knocked down in the end zone. This program wants to win that game at Cal 50-14. And I just, one of the things you think about when you think about a program is also the character of a program. I mean, Alabama's like this. Alabama needs to have a good the Alabama fans are not okay with, other than a wild Iron Bowl here and there, they're not okay with wild shootouts. They need to have a decent defense. And I think our culture needs to have a decent defense, or else our fans are not going to be happy. Our donors are not going to be happy. They're going to want a decent defense and a good offense. And that's what USC has had for a century. So that's, it's not unthinkable.
So we throw that back up there, Tony. Here's the graphic. Sorry about that earlier. UCLA number 3 in total defense, 299 yards allowed. That is, I think I read somewhere, their best defense since like 1994.
I believe it.
Yeah. So I think in 94, they gave up like 297 yards.
I mean, they were a good defensive team. They were just terrible on offense.
Yeah.
This year. And the other thing, by the way, for folks wondering, UCLA is getting a new chancellor this year. And Gene Block is retiring after 22 years or something there. And so it makes sense that they are not going to saddle a new incoming chancellor with a huge big-time football hire. So it makes sense that they are going to keep Chip Kelly for another year. We did the same thing at USC when we had interim President Austin, and when they were hiring President Folt. Remember that we should have, that was the year we should have fired Clay Helton, and we didn't. Now, we didn't need to give him the extension that we gave him, but we kind of knew that Lynn Swann was going to be gone, and we kind of knew that Clay Helton was going to be gone. But interim President Austin, who was a USC trustee, she wasn't even just a random person, knew that the new president had to make that call. And I would guess that at UCLA, they have decided the new chancellor will make that call based on next year. So, I know we're Trojans, right? We don't cut UCLA some slack, but like in our minds, know that we did the exact same thing when we were getting a new president.
That's a great point. Here is what Lincoln Riley had to say on DeAnton Lynn. We are thrilled to welcome DeAnton and his family to USC. We simply couldn't ask for a better addition to our staff. Successful experiences in both college and the NFL make him the perfect fit for our program. I hope you'll join me in welcoming him to the Trojan family. Some notes on Anton Lynn's defense. They finished, like I mentioned, the regular season ranked first in the nation in rushing defense at 69.6 yards a game. Second in the nation in yards per rush allowed at 2.33, and third in the nation in sacks per game at 3.42. Yes, opponents averaged 299 yards. It was the lowest by a Bruin team since 1992, which was 297.8 yards. So that's historic. Those are historic numbers. 30 years, in terms of Bruin defense. And again, this guy was hired on February 23rd. So that was literally 9 months ago. And for him to do what he did, there is potential there. Yes, his resume is not like some of the other sexy hires, but to do what he did in a short amount of time, and now, moving to the Big Ten again, he played in the Big Ten. He's coached in the NFL and teams that value defense, like the Ravens, and with the Houston Texans as well. He had success with the Houston Texans, and he knows how to work with safeties in the secondary. So that is going to be key. And we'll have to see what he does in terms of his staff. I'm sure those discussions are going to be happening between DeAnton Lynn and Lincoln Riley, and how they're going to maximize time and this roster, and how they're going to have to add to the roster through the portal. But as Jen Cohen stated in the LA Times article on Wednesday, The resources are there. Lincoln Riley has the support, and they're going to do what they need to build a championship team because that is the standard.
And again, I put my trust in her. Now, her hiring of Jimmy Lake didn't really work out as well, but most of the calls she's made have been really good. She really rebuilt that Washington program as AD. So, I give her kudos for that. I will say I did get a little bit of flack from my UCLA friends last night when they were talking about who do we hire now. And I said, I know a coach who's already paid. You could take him for free. And they did not appreciate the idea of being offered Alex Grinch for free.
Yeah, I think
I was told that was cold.
I think there was a tweet last night by Arrogant Nation, Rusty, Fight on Rusty. Did Alex Grinch just get hired? There was that drive late in the championship game where they just
did Alex Grinch take over Washington's defense here in the fourth quarter? What happened?
Exactly.
I will say too, and I love Mike Leach and I love Coach Leach, but one of the things that I wanted to make sure we did not do, I wanted us to hire a DC who was not from the Leach world, who was not a child of bad Mike Leach defenses.
Yeah.
And we didn't. He's from the Ravens. He's from Penn State. He is not from that Leach tree of bad defenses. And I don't want to like rip up because there's great coaches that have come from there, but I thought it was good that we had somebody that was somebody new and different.
Yeah, and here's a question here, or a comment by Robert Alvarado. Thanks for joining us, Robert.
Fight on, Robert.
Bordeaux. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that initially. He makes USC look more attractive, especially to young men in the transfer portal. And there's another question here by Stay XX Thirsty. What recruiting expertise does DeAnton have? Will he poach any recruits, players from UCLA? That's all up for speculation. Stay XX Thirsty. We'll have to see. Again, I think his recruiting experience is limited. As I had mentioned, he came on at the end of February of last year. So there was the spring transfer portal. Don't know exactly who if anybody, he was able to bring in through the transfer portal. He will have that time right now, as we kind of discussed, is he'll be strategizing with Lincoln Riley, the rest of the defensive staff, whoever that may be. We don't know what the changes are. That's going to be determined. But who they're going to go after in the transfer portal, I'm sure he's going to look over our current players. Decisions will be made right now. But
I would guess coming from UCLA, he has a pretty good handle on our players too.
Yeah, he has a good handle on our players.
He knows who we've got.
And so he runs
in fact, he probably has some great advice for us on offense too.
Yeah. And so and that's the one thing is that
here's the linemen that need to go because I stunted at them every single play.
Great points. And that game, I saw UCLA was more physical. They made adjustments and they throttled USC's offense. So that is the one thing I look forward to too, is he was making adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Tony, what are your expectations for this defense moving into the Big Ten? What realistically, Trojan fans out there want to know, what can this guy do? What do you think he can do this first year moving into the Big Ten?
I think we have a couple of tough games. We also have some winnable games. I really kind of wish we weren't opening with LSU. That is like, on all honesty, we could do with it. Given our team transition, given our Big Ten transition, given everything else, that game in retrospect, I mean, it seemed cool at the time. Pac-12, when we scheduled that game, the Pac-12 was a dumpster fire. So that seemed like a really good game to schedule. In retrospect, I wish we just cancel it because we got enough Big Ten games to worry about. But we'll see. I mean, in all honesty, given that this team was how bad this team was this year, given the schedule next year, I mean, if we can pull 9-3, I think it's a win. It's going to be disruptive. Moving conferences is going to be more disruptive than we think.
Oh, I agree with you. It's gonna be a
We're going to
challenge.
get snake bitten by somebody like Iowa or Purdue or whatever. One of those teams.
It's going to be challenging. I differ my opinion on LSU. I think that's a great challenge. And yes,
It is. It is. It's just one that we could probably do without.
but I love it though, because that's going to be a measuring stick. Hey, we're going to most likely be without Caleb Williams. They're going to be without their quarterback, who will Jaden Daniels. They'll be without him, and um, LSU always has talent on both sides of the ball. They have, but they've had their challenges as well. But I think it's a great opening game. We'll get to see whoever our quarterback's going to be. They're going to have the spring and the fall to be working in camp, and I think it's a great challenge. It'll get us ready. I mean, there's motivation from right now until that game, and then going into the Big Ten. So, yes, we will get snake bitten by some team that we're not supposed to lose to. But I think by hiring DeAnton Lynn, we have a solid foundation which to grow. He's young, so the fact that what I like about this hire is there's the potential to have some continuity for him to be at USC for longer than a year. The flip side is you could get Jim Leonard, but how long was he really going to be here?
I mean, and again, what I think we need is we need a culture change. Again, maybe this may work out really well. It's just kind of saying, huh, like, okay, let's hope it works. But I mean, again, he's worked everywhere else he's gone. And one of the things that I think really we needed somebody who has a proven track record of making it work. And that is what he's done.
Yeah. And so the question becomes next as we move forward is who are we going to get in the transfer portal? Who are we going to be targeting? Those discussions will be had. I believe he runs a 4-2-5 defense and also has a base 4-3 defense. So I like the 4D linemen. We're going to see what players there's going to be evaluations of who we have currently on the roster that are going to stay, and what type of additions that we're going to need to run his defense. I'm excited that he's going to have the opportunity to actually have an active role, unlike UCLA, where he kind of just had to work what he was dealing with, and so he can really put his stamp on this program on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm interested to see what practices are going to look like because we need more physicality. And whatever he was doing at UCLA, obviously it worked.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take it.
Tony, what are your thoughts now concerning? I mean, fans want to know out there, what do you think is going to happen with USC with regards to the bowl game? Let's close with that. There's rumors about the Sun Bowl, the Holiday Bowl, and I believe the other one is the Gronk Bowl.
I worry we're not going to be up for it.
Yeah.
So first of all, Miller's a good quarterback. I'm not worried. I mean, I don't think Caleb's probably going to play. I'll tell you, I hate this whole everybody. Oh, we're just going to the NFL. We don't play in the bowl game. I think it's dumb, but it is what it is, and Caleb's not going to play. I don't think so. Miller's a good quarterback. Miller can handle it. I worry our defense stinks. Our offensive line stinks, and they're not getting better before we play in the bowl game. So, I worry that we play Clemson or somebody and we get creamed. The Sun Bowl, we are infamously bad in the Sun Bowl because we feel the Sun Bowl is not worthy of us. And we're not up for it. When I was in school, we went to the Sun Bowl, and I got word from some band friends, actually. They were like, we were coming back from Mexico. This is the night before the game. They said we were going back from Mexico, and we ran into football players at the border going into Mexico. And needless to say, we got creamed in the Sun Bowl by I don't even remember who it was. But it was not a team we should have been losing to. And so, the problem with one of those bowl games is they're fired up to play USC, or they're Clemson and they're really good, something like that. So we could very easily look bad in a bowl game, and I want us to not look bad. So I'm a little bit worried, but at the same time, we have the capability to go in there and win and do better. I imagine that Lynn will not have like taken command of the defense at the time, but maybe he can get him fired up to play a little better. Because again, I think there's talent there, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, there is talent there, and that was part of the problem with Grinch is that he didn't know how to place that talent in his scheme, or he didn't seem like he would adapt to the talent that he had, and um, it just didn't seem like the defense had any growth in the 2 years that he was there, and it actually just declined. It was so hard to watch this past year. We thought that with the additional players of the transfer portal, that they would be developed and we would provide depth, but the defense just, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, but
But the offensive line was really bad too. Like
yeah, no,
let's not just blame the defense.
no, the offensive line wasn't as good as the year before, and there was no running game. There was no balanced offensive attack, and Caleb Williams was getting destroyed back there in certain games where the defensive line, such as the Notre Dame game, the UCLA game, where they were just bull rushing our offensive line and hitting the weak side, the right side, and finding their way to the quarterback.
Well, and I would also add that one of the things we forgot about last year, and Lincoln Riley's talked about this, we regressed. John Wilner has warned for over a year. I mean, he was warned this in the middle of last season. Our defense, the turnovers that they were getting, some of which were skill, right? But a lot of them were luck, being in the right place, the right time, the interceptions and fumble and all that they were so out of whack and they were letting us win games that we shouldn't. And he said, we're going to get a regression to the mean. And that's exactly what happened this year when we didn't get those turnovers. It's like going to a casino and you come back and you win a fortune on roulette and you come back and you're like, oh, I had the best strategy. I just always bet red. Like, okay, that worked this time, but the next 20 times you go to the casino, it's not going to work because mathematically you can't keep that up. And I think that's what happened to us with turnovers.
That's a great point, Tony. And we just did not create the turnovers this year. And because of our offensive line, we gave the ball up a lot of times. And that Notre Dame game, I think, what was it, 5 turnovers? And so that's not a winning formula. Appreciate everybody joining us for this edition of Trojans Talk on Tap on the channel. If you haven't subscribed, appreciate a subscribe. Hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. It helps grow the channel. Appreciate everybody that has subscribed to the channel. You guys are fantastic. Here always bringing you the latest on USC football, college football, and a craft beer recommend. And Tony, share with us what you're currently working on and what we can look forward to. If you haven't followed Tony Altimore, you need to follow Tony Altimore on Twitter at TJ Altimore. He's always got outstanding information when it comes to conference realignment. He's been following what's been going on with the fight between the Pac-2 and the 10 members that are leaving the Pac-12. Tony, let us know what's going on.
With that, very interesting. The sort of kangaroo court decision that was going to let Wazoo and Oregon State seize control of the conference has been thrown out temporarily by the Washington Supreme Court. They are continuing they're taking it to a huge appellate review process. I think that the court wants them to settle it, and I think they will settle it. The Pac-2, Oregon State, Washington State just signed a 1-year deal with the Mountain West, where they're each going to get 6 Mountain West opponents and to fill their schedules with. And I think that will eventually move towards probably a reverse merger of some kind with the Mountain West. I think they'll settle the lawsuit. But we've got a really cool thing coming up on LBC's channel. We're going to have a video looking at the crazy history of the Pac-12 and about how the Pac-12 actually fakes a bunch of its history. So it's going to be kind of fun. Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, hit the bell notification so you know when we go live, such as today, or we break the video that Tony's talking about. We're working on that, and I'm excited to share that with you. We got a lot of great stuff coming up on the channel during December and moving into signing day, transfer portal. A great time here on the channel, and looking forward to it. Appreciate everybody who has subscribed, and what a great day. I couldn't believe last night. I'm still a little bit in a daze that we've hired a defensive coordinator. I think it has so much upside, and I'm excited to see that. The great thing about going to a bowl game is he's going to be able to watch the practices, to check out our personnel, and be an active participant in what's going to be happening with the transfer portal come Monday. And it's an exciting time to be a Trojan. Again, our crosstown rivals, I don't know what's going on there, but credit Jen Cohen for this search, because it was very close to the vest. There was a lot of speculation on social media, and they kept things quiet, and they had people guessing. And like you mentioned, Tony, we were kind of talking off air that this guy DeAnton Lynn, what he did at UCLA, it's pretty spectacular. So there's a lot of potential, and I think that's what's exciting as we move to the Big Ten. Is he's proved what he could do in the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 had some of the most explosive offenses, and it was a crazy last year in the Pac-12, and now Washington is going to make the college football playoff at 13-0. Very hard to go undefeated in the Pac-12. Tony, what were your thoughts on the game last night? And people in the chat, what were your thoughts on watching the Pac-12 championship?
I looked at it, and I thought it was going to be. It was basically kind of what I expected to be. I thought it was going to be a really good game, and it was. I thought that I expected Oregon to win, like most people, but I thought that Washington would make it close. And I actually, some people the other night when we had our Pac-12 chat show, and some people were telling me, they're like, "Oh no, it's Oregon's going to dominate." I said, Washington already won this game. They already won this game once. I think they can do it again. Again, I thought Oregon was going to win, and they were a field goal away from doing it. So, or maybe that one interception away from doing it. So it was a game for the ages, and most importantly, for the last game of the Pac-12, I thought it was the game that the Pac-12 deserved. The Pac-12 deserved a full house in Vegas, rocking and rolling with two, legendary arch enemies going at it, and that's what we got. So I was proud of it for the conference.
Well, I was wrong. I thought Oregon was going to win by 10, and I just felt that they had a better second half, and they were rolling, and it just didn't happen. But congratulations to Washington. This is Championship Saturday. Obviously, we're here talking about USC hiring UCLA's defensive coordinator, DeAnton Lynn. So we are not in the championship. Hopefully, we will be in the championship next year in the Big Ten. That's the goal. Those are the aspirations. As we close up, Tony, as we wrap the show up, as we're getting close to kickoff in the Big 12 championship, Oklahoma State and Texas, real quickly, give me your predictions on who's going to win the Power 5 championships. Let's start off with the Big 12 championship. Who do you have?
Hook 'em horns.
Yeah. Texas.
For one thing, I have never met more assholes in my life than Oklahoma State Twitter. Actually, no, I take it back. Brigham Young Twitter, way bigger assholes, but close. So hook 'em horns. Not only that, I have a ton of friends who went to UT. I enjoy watching UT. I like Sarkisian. I like Quinn Ewers. Like I actually like everything about Austin. I have an ex from UT, so I've always been a closeted Longhorn fan. I mean, not actually, but I'm when they're not playing USC, I always like to see Texas win. So I also think Texas is going to crush them, and I think Texas is peeved about their playoff standards, and I think that they may just demolish Oklahoma State from that. So Texas is going to win. I think Michigan's going to win handily. Although, if Iowa was like our defense, if Iowa could just get a smidge of offense, they have a really good defense. But I think Michigan's going to win that one handily. And then, I guess a lot of things can happen. There's some uncertainties with Florida State, but I think they're going to win too. So go and hail to Michigan. What about you?
Well, I agree with you. I'm not fond of Texas um, for a lot of different reasons, but
I mean,
I,
don't
I,
get me wrong. My nightmares are still haunted by the
yes,
sound of Texas fight echoing off the hills of the Arroyo while walking to my car after that Rose Bowl. But that happens sometimes.
and I'm not a fan of Mac Brown. So, but I have Texas over Oklahoma State. I agree with you on Michigan. Michigan is going to blow out Iowa. Florida State, they're going to find a way. Louisville's beatable, um, and Florida State defensively, they will create some issues for Louisville, and they'll win in a close one. And the game that we're not talking about, Tony, who do you have in the SEC championship? Bama and Georgia. I'll let you go first.
Go Dogs.
Go Dog.
Yeah. I mean, I like Alabama. I have a lot of friends from Alabama. I just think Georgia's a really good team, and I think Alabama. We've seen a lot of holes in Alabama. Now that said, Nick Saban can do anything. So am I going to be surprised if Nick Saban finds a way to win the game? No, but I think that Georgia's a better team. I think that Alabama has more holes, and I think Georgia comes out with a win that is effectively a home game for Georgia. I mean, that's the other thing is people are saying right now, like, well, the SEC tickets. Of course, there's so much. What was that stadium in Vegas? 2,000 miles or 1,500, 2,000 miles away from Seattle. And what is it like? I mean, it's in this it's closer to Georgia fans than their own stadium. So it's going to be a rock and rolling house for the Dogs. So glory to old Georgia.
I'm going to differ with you on this one, Tony. Georgia.
Are you going for the Tide?
And here's why. Georgia hasn't been challenged all year, and they haven't looked spectacular. And the SEC is not as strong as it typically is. And yes, Bama has gotten better, but they've shown their weaknesses. They should have lost to Auburn. They didn't. They struggled at home to South Florida, and they lost at home to Texas. So they have been vulnerable at times during this season, but something tells me Nick Saban in this game, Georgia's going to be challenged for the first time. They're going to be punched in the mouth. And Nick Saban, they're going to find a way to win this game. I like Jordan Milroe's athleticism, his potential, his upside. Now, he does make a lot of mistakes, but I like him more so than Carson Beck at Georgia. And I just don't see Carson Beck having the tools, having the experience to win a big game. So I see Alabama win by like a field goal. Well,
all right. It's going to be a good one.
We'll have to check it out. And with that said, we're rocking and rolling. We're getting ready for Texas, Oklahoma State. Thank you for joining us on the channel here on Trojans Talk on Tap with Tony Altimore as we break, we get some reaction a day after USC hires UCLA's defensive coordinator DeAnton Lynn. Let's roll, Trojans. We're moving forward, and let's get that defense improved. Thank you, and have a great Saturday, and fight on.
Fight on, everybody.